we've got a really special topic. I don't think we talked about this topic before, John, and it is how to insure a mixed use property. Good subject. Thanks, and welcome back to the show.
I didn't realize until a little while ago that you can get a loan for a mixed use property very similar to what you can for a home and a primary residence, right? If you're buying a 2 or 3 family or 4 family home, you can get similar financing, or maybe even the same financing, Matt, that you could on one of those properties for a mixed use, maybe a property that has 2 apartments and 1 commercial occupancy. The problem is that when it comes to the insurance, unfortunately, it doesn't work the same way. You'd like to think that you can just get a homeowner's policy to cover that building. But unfortunately, the way that homeowners policies are underwritten is that if there is any business occupancy, if there's going to be a place of business, whether it's an office or a yoga studio or a juice bar, or you name it, in that building, you can't get a homeowner's policy for it. So you have to insure it as a commercial property. The biggest takeaway from this segment is that if there's somebody buying a mixed use property, if you personally are in the market for a mixed use property as your primary residence, or you're working with a client that's buying one of these, know that the insurance budget should increase a little bit, right? It is going to depend on a lot of factors, the type of business occupancy being the big one, because insurance companies are now going to take that into account and take the risk of that occupancy into account with the rate. Now, if there is just a real estate office or an attorney's office in that building, that's pretty safe. You can honestly bet that your insurance cost is going to be pretty similar to what you would get on a regular 3-family home with that type of situation. So maybe budget, $200 to $225 a month for that sort of insurance. But if it starts to get outside of that, types of businesses that have lots more foot traffic, a lot more people coming in and out of the building, and especially if there's food service or alcohol involved, those things are going to start to increase the rate substantially, and going to want to budget for that.
John, do you have an idea of the difference between a residential and a commercial policy as far as percentage goes? I know every situation is different, but kind of like around the ballpark.
Yeah, on average, I would add like 20% to the premium. Aside from that too, just know that a regular home insurance policy isn't going to cut it for that property. And just knowing that ahead of time is a big thing to understand, because if you do end up getting a homeowner's type policy on this property, once the insurance company comes out to inspect, which we've talked about a few times on this show, once they see that there's a business there, they are going to issue a cancellation on your policy. And that sucks. Nobody wants that. You felt like you had everything done, and all of a sudden, you have another thing to do. I don't want to do it. I don't want to have to go back and write you another policy. I just spent a lot of time doing it. You mentioned the example of the dentist buying the property, right? It's their business, right? That's an example where actually the insurance can combine those two together. It can combine your dental practice, the general liability for that, along with the building coverage for the house itself or the property. And that is a really great cost savings tool for people if they are going to own the business that occupies that commercial space. You're going to get a more attractive bundled rate by putting that stuff together, as opposed to 2 separate policies, one where you're essentially the landlord and one where you're the tenant. That's like doubling up your coverage more than you would need to.